Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. Folks, I have some breaking news for you about the state of the stimulus negotiations and where the stimulus package stands right now. And I'll tell you what I think is likely to happen in the next 2 weeks given this brand new information. This, folks, is breaking news on Ignition Time. Welcome back to this episode of Ignition Time. Brand new information has just come in from the Republicans, who essentially have made up their mind that they're going to oppose the $1.9 trillion package, everyone. Yep, the Republicans have made it clear that they are not going to support the package, and now it is official. I'm going to show you some brand new information on your screen here from Manu Raju over at CNN. House Republican leaders, everyone, House Republican leaders have begun whipping their members to oppose the $1.9 trillion stimulus package. I'll tell you what this means in just a second. But basically, there's going to be a vote on this massive $1.9 trillion stimulus package, everyone, next week. So keep in mind that when this vote happens, the Democrats are going to support this, but the Republicans are going to say, nah, we don't want to do this. And it's very clear, again, reporting from Manu Raju over at CNN, House Republicans have begun whipping their members to oppose the $1.9 trillion package ahead of key votes next week. And the bill is moving through committees next week before heading to the floor. Now, what is interesting, and I've mentioned this before on our channel, is that the package becomes a bill, and that bill has to pass both the House and the Senate, and then that everyone becomes law. So right now we have a bill that is being written, and the bill is going through different committees within the House of Representatives. And if you thought that was interesting, check out what the Republicans are calling the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan. Pretty incredible. Let's check out what the Republicans are calling it. The Republicans are calling it, in the House of Representatives, the Republicans are calling this Pelosi's Payoff to Progressives Act. Yep, they're calling it Pelosi's Payoff to Progressive Act. So folks, here is what is very likely to happen. I believe that the House Democrats are going to pass the bill because the Democrats still have a majority in the House. Now keep in mind, this is a razor thin majority. Then the bill will go to the Senate, and I can assure you that if the House Republicans are opposing it, the Senate Republicans will also oppose it. So this essentially is going to get almost no votes, or maybe a couple of votes in the Republican-led Senate, who knows. But one thing that is likely to happen, that is very likely to happen, is that the House Democrats and the Democrats in the Senate are going to pass this through the process of reconciliation. That was interesting what the Republicans are calling it. Again, the Republicans are calling the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan, they're calling it Pelosi's Payoff to Progressives Act. Pelosi's Payoff to Progressives Act. And in a follow-up tweet from Manu Raju over at CNN, let's show you the tweet on your screen. By the way, you'll get a link to all of these resources in the description section below, so you can definitely check them out. In a follow-up tweet, Manu Raju says, in the meantime, Senate Republican ranking members send a letter to Democrats. Now keep in mind, I talked to you about what House Republicans are doing, and now here let's dig into what Senate Republicans are doing. Senate Republicans are sending a letter to Democrats to raise concerns over the plans to bring the bill straight to the floor and bypass committees. So just so that our viewers and subscribers understand, normally a bill of this size goes through various committees in the House and the Senate before it's brought to the floor of the Senate for a vote. But what's happening here is that this massive bill is going through multiple committees in the House, and then the Democrats are going to try and bring it directly to the floor of the Senate for a vote. In other words, they are trying to jam this through. And so what Republicans are saying is, how can you do that? Why haven't we had a chance to debate this? Why is this not going through various committees in the Senate? And so Senate Republicans are saying, hey, bring it through different committees, let's debate it, let's argue about it, and then hopefully let us put our input into it. That's what Republicans are saying. And getting back into what Manu Raju is saying, basically, Senate Republican ranking members sent a letter to Democrats to raise concerns over plans to bring the bill straight to the floor of the Senate and bypass the Senate committees. This would make, according to these Senate Republicans, this would make Senate Democrats' first legislative act of the 117th Congress with under President Biden, the outsourcing of their own committee gavels to the House. So, folks, here's what's going on. I just want our viewers and subscribers to understand this. What is happening here is that Republicans in the House are basically saying, no, this is the Pelosi's Payoff to Progressives Act. So you can see the massive opposition amongst Republicans in the Senate. On top of that, Republicans in the Senate, I was referring to Republicans in the House earlier. On top of that, Republicans in the Senate are going one step further and saying that the outsourcing of our committee gavels, meaning the gavels, the committee gavels in the Senate, are being outsourced by the Democrats to the committees in the House. The bottom line is that the Republicans are saying, hey, how can Democrats simply allow all the committees in the House to make the decisions and bypass the committees in the Senate? Here's the end game, everyone. The Republicans are not going to support the American Rescue Plan. You know this, I know this. But this really makes it official. That is why this update is different. This update is important. Because remember, next week, the House and the Senate are back in session. What we can expect next week is that the Republicans to go on television. We can expect the Republicans to be on the floor of the Senate saying this is the Progressives Act, the Pelosi's Payoff to Progressives Act. This is a bunch of wasteful spending. The stock market is up. The economy is improving. The vaccine is working much better than anybody anticipated. Everything's starting to reopen again. That is what the Republicans are going to say. And the Democrats are going to jam the whole thing through the process of reconciliation. That is, in fact, what this is setting up to be. In the next 2 weeks, we can expect a lot of drama. We can expect the Republicans to try and cut back some aspects of the stimulus bill. We can expect the Democrats to jam this one through reconciliation. And then we can expect a lot of Republicans to say, hey, President Biden promised bipartisanship. President Biden promised unity. President Biden promised to be a uniter. He promised to be someone who would work with both sides of the aisle. And that is not what he's doing, because the Democrats are jamming through their proposal. And the Democrats will say that the Republicans don't understand the needs of the American people. I'm actually honestly quite surprised that they would call it the Pelosi's Payoff to Progressives Act. So what the Republicans are basically saying is, hey, this is a bunch of wasteful spending. And even though this bill, again, let's show you this tweet again on your screen, even though this bill is going to go through various House committees, the fact that it's not going to go through a single Senate committee. Remember, what the House wants to do is, normally, again, what happens is the bill goes through different committees in the House and then ends up on the floor of the House for a vote. Then the same bill goes through different committees in the Senate, ends up on the floor of the Senate for a vote. What the Democrats are trying to do here is to have the bill, which is going through the various House committees, which are led by Democrats, and essentially immediately put it on the floor of the Senate. And they can do this because they have the majority, and they can do this because of other legislative factors. And by the way, the leaders, the chairs of the Senate committees are Democrats. So essentially what the Republicans are saying is, hey, why don't we delay the inevitable? Because the inevitable aspect of this is, even if it goes through various Senate committees, this entire bill, which, by the way, would probably delay things by a couple of weeks, it would still pass because the Democrats have the majority in the Senate, because the Democrats have, thanks to the tie-breaking vote from Vice President Kamala Harris, the majority. So I think what the Republicans are trying to do is make a big stink about this and say, hey, this is look at what the Democrats are doing. And that is a state of where things stand right now, folks. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. Pretty incredible update, everyone, from the Republicans, just making their position clear, delaying what I think is the inevitable. Let me know what you think. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Please click like, please subscribe, please enable notifications. That really helps out the YouTube algorithm. That helps me personally. Thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.